Hi there, Rick here, making another YouTube video on the vinyl window industry. Um, this company that I worked for, okay, um, they're, I would say, kind of like a medium-sized company. They had, okay, there was the boss, okay. This company was in Burnaby, um, and okay, they had a secretary in the office. There was the manager in the office. There was about 16 workers working in the warehouse. Okay, um, so that's a I would say it's a medium-sized company. Okay, and they were making about it's quite amazing because they were making about 170 vinyl windows a day. Okay. Um, some of the other smaller companies that I worked for, they're only making on average, okay, 16 vinyl windows a day. So you see the big difference there, right? Um, of course, the bigger one making, 180 vinyl windows should have been making, a lot more money. Um, when how I found their company was, uh, sometimes I use my computer, search online. I had saw their ad um, that comes in flyers through the mail. So I kept one of their flyers, and then when I stopped working for an old boss of mine doing window installs, I went to their office and I talked to their manager. Um, and then he gave me a job. I was working in the warehouse. I had already had 2 years experience, okay, working full time in the vinyl window industry. Um, I was gonna say that's pretty good, okay, because people that can stick it out 2 years, okay, work in the industry full time, um, is quite good because the work is not easy. You have to remember, wow, that was quite a few years ago, and um, I didn't find it as hard just because I was younger, had more energy back then, I was stronger, okay. Um, so I was working the warehouse, building these vinyl windows. It was quite interesting because people are working in different stations, and it was like an assembly line. Okay, people would be doing different things. Okay, maybe some people would be working in the glass station. Okay, their job was cutting the glass, making the sealed units. Okay, and then putting it on a rack, and then pushing it into the next station where the workers needed it. Okay. I was in the glazing station. So what that was, I had to get the correct size glass, okay, put it in the window frame, and then cut the beads um, to hold the glass in the frames, okay. So that was the glazing station. And one thing I noticed about working in the warehouse too was there was a lot of East Indians, and I noticed too, a lot of them were speaking their own language, and a lot of them, knew very little English. Okay, it was just kind of like broken in English, and one of my coworkers, his name was Amrik, and uh, his English, I would say, was probably on a scale 1 to 10, maybe about a 3, maybe even a 2. Okay. Um, Sometimes when I had to speak to him, I would say something, or sometimes, when I would say something to him, I wasn't quite sure if he totally understood me. Okay, and okay, sometimes we had to do service calls together, and when I was talking to him, sometimes when he was talking to me, he would say something, and I didn't understand him because he would talk too fast, and then he had such a heavy accent that I just couldn't understand him. So I would say to him, Amrik, what did you say? and then he would say the same thing back to me in the same speed that he said it in, and I still didn't understand him. And then I would say a second time, Amrik, what did you say? And then, he'd say it again, and I still didn't understand him a lot of times. And while I was gonna ask him, I think sometimes even asked him a third time, but I thought he was gonna get mad at me, because you have to remember, you ask somebody something three times, most people will get mad at you. So sometimes I just didn't even bother asking him again. I think he's been in Canada for quite a long time, and I just wanted to stress the importance too of knowing how to speak the language, just because it's quite important, okay? Because customers were complaining about, him doing the service calls at the company. People were calling back to the office, I heard, because I was talking to the manager, why did you send somebody to the house who can't speak English, okay? What else? When you're trying to communicate with the customer, okay, the problem that you have, and trying to get him to fix it, and you notice that, gee, this service guy, he doesn't speak English, and I can't even hardly communicate with the guy. They just don't like it. So back to the story. The Vinyl Window Company I was working for, I would say that they were one of the top vinyl window companies in the Lower Mainland when I was there. Okay. I started off working the warehouse for quite a few months. I was with the company for 3 years, off and on, okay, for about 3 years total. And I worked, in the warehouse, okay, building the windows, okay. So, this company, what was it? They were a lot busier, okay. And I was talking to the boss, just telling him how this other company that I used to work for, where they were advertising, and I suggested to him to advertise in the same place, and business shot up by about 33%. But it was quite expensive. It was like $130,000 to advertise for a year in there, and so the company had like four full-time installing crews, okay, and the economy was pretty good then, because even the manager was kind of like begging me to go out on the weekends to do work, just because we were backed up as much as a month and a half with installs. That's how busy it was. So I would say that the economy was quite good then. I was doing quite a few installs for them, plus to work in the warehouse. The company had like manual machinery, okay, that they were using to build these vinyl windows, and then through the years, okay, they upgraded their machinery to computerized machinery, and the computerized machinery, I know, was quite a bit more than the manual type of machinery, because this computerized machinery, it could do the work a lot faster, and it was more it was just more precision work better, okay. And I helped unpack some of the boxes, and I collapsed a lot of the boxes too. I brought them to the dump. Each one of these machines were not cheap, okay. I think the boss paid about I was quite certain each of the machine was about 200,000 US dollars each, okay. 200,000 US dollars each for each one, and I think we got at least about 6 or 7 of these machines in. So I think he had the money on hand, but he also, I think, maybe borrowed from the bank. So we had 4 full-time crews, working for the company. Okay, they would do about 1 house a day. Okay, each of the crews maybe had about 3 to 4 workers, and I still remember talking to one of the workers. He was trying to get his friend involved in the work, and he was just saying how hard it was for some people to learn a new skill. He was trying to explain to them, okay, we work on one particular window. When we finish, we move to another room. Okay. Anyways, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working out. These guys, they just weren't picking up the skill. Because I did see quite a few of the contractors. They were changing a lot of their workers almost every single week. And I thought, wow, anytime you change your workers that much, it's not good, because you have to remember, you're training somebody to do something, okay, and well, maybe you spent a lot of time with them throughout the week, and then they didn't stay, right? So you have to train somebody new now, right? And the people who have been there, well, longer, right? As time goes by, you should be, well, paying them more money, right? Or giving them, some other, positive incentive to stay too, right? Because, they're getting better at their work and, helping you make more money. So, you should be, well, giving them, something maybe every quarter or something like that, or, every 6 months. Because most employers, even big companies, they do that for their workers. I know that one of the glaziers that I used to work for before, quite a bit, this was a few years ago. He went to go work at a bottle depot, but before that he was working for, a window company. But I think he got into argument with his foreman, and then his foreman, got rid of him after that. But he was making good money there, and I would say that they were kind of a big company. Okay. Well, this vinyl window company I was working for, I would say that, when I was there, through the years, they became the top vinyl window company, in Vancouver, in the Lower Mainland. Sometimes they were doing as much as 3-4 houses on one block, in a lot of different neighborhoods, and that was a lot, because I got to see the contracts too, in the office, and there was a big stack about this thick, okay, of papers, of orders, okay, and that was a lot, okay, and there was a lot of work being turned away just because we couldn't handle the volume, the load of installs that were coming in. As soon as people found out that there was a 1.5 month wait just to get your vinyl windows, they said, sorry, I'm gonna get my vinyl window somewhere else. That's too long to wait for, and I don't blame them either. Okay, that was a long time to wait. I just wanted to talk briefly about my first video, episode 1. Had that smaller company that I worked for, had they just run their company a little bit better, okay, they could have turned around the company, and maybe even when it came time to sell it, maybe 100,000, 150, maybe even a quarter, they could have sold it for $250,000. But because, they are running their business into the ground, okay, they just had to close up shop and probably just sell the equipment for like, you know, rock bottom prices, or you know, just get it stored somewhere. But you know, I'm sure they got almost nothing for the equipment that they had in the warehouse, if they just closed down the company, which I think they did have to do. But you look at, well, another company, their friend's company that I had worked for, Sean's, he was able to sell the company to 4 guys, and you know, he gave them the training that they needed to be successful, and they were quite busy. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised they made the money back from, you know, what they paid Sean to buy the company for. But you know, that was the proper way to run the company, right? Compared to how Alice and Sam was running it. And you know, in the end, well, what I'm trying to say is that they ran their company into the ground. They didn't know how to run it properly. I was trying to give them a lot of pointers on how to run the company. They didn't listen, and like, well, I left the company, and you know, I think eventually they got into arguments with their regular contractor. Their regular contractor left, so they had no contractors whatsoever to work for them. Okay, and you know, how long are you able to stay in business if you have no installers? Okay, you've got no contractors working for you, and even the ones that you got rid of before, you're trying to call them, you know, they don't want to even, you know, pick up their phone. Okay, they just basically don't want anything to do of working for your company again. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, just because it doesn't matter whether it's a vinyl window company, it could be another company, but just the wrong way to do things and the right way to do things. Okay, you know, Sean, he ran his company the right way. You know, in the end, when it came to sell his company, he was able to sell it, whereas Alice and Sam, they probably just had to close it up, and they got almost absolutely nothing for their company. Okay, so this vinyl window company that I worked for in Burnaby, they even had a service van. Okay, they had their business name on the side of the service van, and they also had a service truck too. Okay, and I got to drive the service van and even the service truck. It was quite nice. It was a nice service van, nice cushion seat. Okay, sometimes I had to go out and do a service call out in White Rock, 45-minute drive out there. Had to adjust some patio door locks that didn't work properly. Took about 15 minutes, and then another 45-minute drive back to the warehouse in Burnaby. And so that's about an hour and a half of driving time right there. Okay, it was especially nice during the summertime. I would tilt the seat back and turn on the radio, you know, enjoy the music, the drive out there. Okay, you know, it was the job that a lot of people wanted to do in the warehouse, but because there were so few people speaking English, the manager wanted me to be their full-time service guy, and you know, I didn't work in the warehouse that much, maybe just for a few hours, and the rest was just, you know, on the road doing the service calls. A lot of times too, I had to work overtime just because when I was trying to make it back to the warehouse to Burnaby, wow, I would get caught in rush hour traffic, right? So, you know, I just have to wait in rush hour traffic on the freeway to get back to the warehouse, because even had I taken the freeway roads, it was still quite busy, and I was still gotten into traffic, stuck in traffic. It would have been just as long. So this company, okay, I knew they were making money, just because, well, I see the amount of orders coming in. Um, I see the company upgrading from the lower end machinery to computerized machinery. Um, I think it was the owner who told me each of these machineries costed $200,000 each. Okay, um, they were computerized. Um, I was amazed at how much nicer these machineries would do the work on the vinyl windows and making them. One of them, you just had to put the frames um, two at a time. I think there were about 25 feet long pieces or 22 feet pieces, and then the machine would pull the material through the machine, and then there was a saw that would come by and bzz, bzz, do these 45-degree angle cuts. And that was, wow, it was a lot faster than their old machine that you'd have to literally push the pieces in manually and adjust the saw to, to cut it to the right length. But you just had to put in the machine, punch in the sizes that you needed, and it would do the work for you. It would suck the material through the machine and cut it. The glass machine, the computerized machine, was quite amazing too, because you would punch in all the different sizes that you need, okay? And then the computer would figure out the sheet of glass to cut it with the least amount of wastage. So after you finish, then you would just hit start, and then the glass cutter would come down, okay, bzz, bzz, and then score the glass accordingly to the sizes that you had asked for. And all the person had to do was, well, break the piece of glass, put it on a rack, okay? But it was quite cool to watch these machines work, and I guess you could call that AI technology too, because, well, it's computerized, right? And it's AI technology. It wasn't easy, I would say, running a company that size too. You have to remember, you're dealing with what, 16 workers, and sometimes the workers are, well, they're unhappy about something, right? And you have to, sometimes deal with that sort of issues too that your workers have.